You're listening to the official Reformed Stoic podcast, covering politics, philosophy, theology, conspiracy theories. I'm ready to get to the bottom of this life. Are you? Join Wolfgang, Sketty Squad, Purity Gang, as we strive to take dominion over this dying planet. I am Reformed Stoic, and this is my podcast. Woo! Yeah, buddy! Lightweight, buddy! Lightweight! Yeah, buddy! Lightweight! Let's go! Let's get in it. How we doing, buddies? Is everybody okay today? Let's go! Lazy day again. By miracle, I got out of bed early, but it made me feel weird, so I didn't work out very hard. You know, 6 rounds on the heavy bag. 6 rounds on the heavy bag, baby. Maintenance workout. Let's go. Because I cranked it early. Still worked out, though. Hard. Hey, man, sometimes you'll crank it, and then you get in a fight. You never know, dude. You might be cranking it, and then you go out to get the mail, and then you have to fight somebody, dude. So I tried to simulate fighting after cranking it, and I think it's actually a pretty good way to train. Let's go. Okay, anyway. We got somewhat of an interesting show for you today. Let's see. We got quiet quitting. We've all been hearing about this for quite a long time. Quiet quitting, quiet quitting. It's something that I ultimately agree with. I'll tell you what. There's a lot of quiet not hiring. I've had experiences in the past where somebody said, hey, you probably got the job, buddy. You'll hear from us in a couple of days. And then they never call me. And then I call them and they're like, yeah, we decided not to hire you. And it's like, but you said I probably got the job. So they quietly not hire. How about you quietly quit? Sounds fair to me. We got some brutal stuff lined up for you on the MGTOW front. This was actually very difficult to find anything on. We're going to start out with a MGTOW video from Manfulness. The biggest wave of MGTOW is happening now. Came out 2 days ago. So we're going to hear from the boys themselves. And then we're going to hear real men roast Manosphere crybabies. We're going to have to hold on tight for that one, guys. I apologize in advance for that one. That is going to be brutal. Hate, absolute hate fuel. But we're going to make it. Got an article. And then we're going to learn a little bit about karma from a Christian perspective. Mr. Bishop Barron. So, this is like the first podcast in a long time. I haven't had my freaking drink, dude. I'm out of squirts. I'm drinking water. It's over. Talk about excess mortality. Mortality. Sounds like a finishing move. It's time for excess mortality. Shing. Shaw. Hard pills to swallow, boys. Went for a mandatory job interview today. Spoke about death at length. I'm a shoo-in. Here we go. Rick's getting back into the world. Let's go. I'm probably getting back into the world soon, too. Alrighty, guys. Let's go ahead and get it cranking. Woo! For the news segment. You're listening to the Reformed Stoic News segment. Let's go! Alrighty. Roo! Let's go. Got the chat over there. So, starting out with today, hopefully we're good here. We should be all right. Yeah, today, what is quiet quitting? Inside the viral trend sparking controversy.
Somebody asks you to do something that's not in your contract, you don't do it.
The concept of quiet quitting,
not doing the job of 2 to 3 people, stuff like that,
is making some very loud noise on TikTok.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster. I'm going to tell you that.
First, let's define the idea, which one career coach says is really about priorities.
People aren't going above and beyond. They're not bending over backwards for their employers anymore and sacrificing their mental and physical health. They're doing what they're getting paid for.
Allison Peck has amassed hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok, doling out professional career advice. She tells us quiet quitting doesn't apply to many people, whether they're trying to run a company or jumpstart a career. But for others, she says it makes a lot of sense, even if the name doesn't.
I wish it was called something different, because you're not quitting, you're taking care of yourself.
So what would you call this?
You're coasting. You're carefully coasting.
Some speak about reclaiming control between work and personal life.
Isn't that just called working, doing your job properly with a healthy boundary?
While others say it's partly about pay.
Quietly quitting for me is acting my wage and knowing that my time is valuable.
The viral trend coming at a time when a Gallup poll finds employees
acting my wage. She was so nonchalant with that. Acting my wage. I'll bet you're pretty proud of that one, huh, sweetie? You know what, sweetie? You did a good. You made a good little comment. Acting my wage. Good job, sweetie. Good job. That was funny.
Engagement has dipped for the first time in a decade, and the great resignation of workers post-pandemic has put a strain on many businesses. But some online warning that quiet quitting doesn't benefit most people in the long run.
Quiet quitting is literally wasting your time at this company and shooting yourself in the foot. So please don't do that. If you feel like you have no other choice, get a new job.
As for advice to employers about combating quiet quitting,
managers are really important, and that does start at the top. It's important to have the right kind of conversations at the right time.
What's my wage again? What's my wage again? And that's about the time the boomers fired me. So I decided to quit quietly. I want to go and watch some TV shows. I don't give a fuck about boomers. What's my wage again? What's my wage again?
So that people do know what's expected of them in their role and how their work connects to something bigger.
Conveying a sense of purpose and a mission to those who are also looking for fresh incentive is important too.
I still work just as hard. I still get just as much accomplished. I just don't stress and internally rip myself to shreds. And it's beautiful.
Okay, Sam. Is this a generational divide? Is this like kids these days? Or is it more widespread?
Or just people wearing shirts with clouds on it. It's very interesting, guys. You would think there might be a generational divide because a lot of the videos are going onto TikTok, younger people that are seeking out this for sort of a more honest, authentic forum. But if you look at the numbers, it really spans across age groups, Gen X, Gen Z, older millennials, and baby boomers all clocked in at the same amount of engagement, according to this poll, 31 to 33%, which is to say that the majority of Americans across all ages either are not engaged or actively disengaged. So that might be how you feel, and you can adopt this principle of trying to strike work-life balance, but maybe, just maybe, don't advertise it to your bosses. Guys, back to you.
Yeah, hard to sell that one.
I don't know.
I'm an overachiever, so I think I
just feel like you should be here now. When you're at work, be there now. Give 100%.
Grind.
When you're in your relationship, be there now.
Yeah, so basically, quiet quitting is just, as far as I know, you just quit without giving your 2 weeks notice. I know some people would probably need that pay from the last 2 weeks. It's kind of bizarre to me. I don't think I've ever given 2 weeks notice. I always kind of just rage quit. When I was working grills, I was like this busboy at a Korean barbecue. They gave me 2 weeks notice to fire me, and I just quit that day, dude. I left in the middle of my shift. I was pissed off. They told me, one guy said he was going to promote me to being a waiter. He said I was doing a good job and I've been around, and he's going to promote me to being a waiter. And then the other guy sees how I'm carrying the dishes to the back and fucking fires me. So I was pissed off. But yeah, quiet quitting. It's just not giving your 2 weeks notice. It's kind of and then there's also not showing up to interviews. There's people ghosting interviews and quiet quitting. Just little details.
Well, I also feel like it's like, then ask yourself what you expect from your job. I feel like anything in life, whether it's your job or a relationship, you get out what you put in. Yeah. You put in maximum effort, good things come. If you're like kind of the bare minimum, then maybe the bare minimum comes back to you. And if you're cool with that,
In high
that's
school,
a choice.
I worked at a Pathmark store. I worked at a vending machine company after school. But I gave 100%. That's what my dad said.
And you're a boomer. And now you work on the news. I would work hard too if I had a job like you guys did. Let's go.
What you do.
Yeah.
If you're getting
And
paid.
look at you.
Well,
See what happens though? No, when you give 100%, you know.
And hey, that's how I got my first car, mowing lawns, because the guy was so impressed, he gave me his car. Anyway, but I digress, and I am old. So anyway.
You are old.
Hey, thanks for watching.
Very astute observation there, buddy. I don't get why this is even called quitting. You're doing the work that you're paid for and nothing beyond. You get what you put in at work. That actually made me laugh at how out of touch that sentiment is. Most corporate workplaces will use and abuse you, not reward you. Yeah, you know, I only hear what other people say. Well, it sounds like a lot of people in my generation are pessimistic about hard work. I hear that a lot of people share the sentiment that if you work harder than other people at your office, you won't get paid more. They will give you more work. I'm hearing this a lot from people, that the sentiment these days is don't go above and beyond, don't slack off. If you slack off too much, they'll notice and you'll get fired. But if you go above and beyond, they'll give you a heavier workload and you won't get promoted and you won't get paid extra and they won't notice. Ultimately, you just do more for nothing. I love how news stations are freaking out and literally everyone else is like, good for them. Real. Well, with 0 holiday leave, 0 paternity and maternity leave, 0 sick leave, and with no restrictions on how many hours an employer can make you work, and no legal boundaries set to stop an employer taking advantage of you, what do you expect? It's about time American workers start sticking up for their rights. Yeah, I feel like this is a pretty non-issue, dude. This is just kind of a little... Whoa, what's going on there, dude? Look at this Kate Bush. Is that somebody like burying their face in Kate Bush's butt? Anyway, back to the topic. Quiet quitting from my perspective. Oh, geez, sweetie, I wish we had the time. Our money doesn't go half as far as our parents did, and we work twice the amount of hours. What do you expect? Yeah, pretty much, guys. That's what everybody's sentiment is slowly becoming. It's just with inflation, the way things are now, the money just doesn't stretch as far. It's just not as much worth it. Yeah. I feel like this is kind of a non-issue. Hopefully this can make it to 6 p.m. There's not a lot going on here. How quiet quitting became the next phase of the Great Resignation. CNBC.
This is one example of quiet quitting, a trend that has been dominating social media and especially TikTok. In July, Zaid Khan, a 24-year-old engineer from New York, posted a video about quiet quitting, and it went viral. Since then, the trend has spread like wildfire, with hashtags like quiet quitting, quitting, and quieting.
Does anybody want to work anymore?
Then the mainstream media began covering it.
Like working overtime? No thanks. Late night emails? Ignore those.
Quiet quitting is a really bad idea. If you're a quiet quitter, you're not working for me.
The world is changing and the way of work is changing. Even people saying, I'm not going back to the office. And if I do, I'm definitely quiet quitting until I find a job that is a lot more flexible.
COVID was the ultimate reset. COVID was that moment where people started to ask a bigger question. What do I want for my life? Do I want to continue working the way that I have? Or do I want something different? Do I want to continue to work, which is awesome, but do I also want to be able to enjoy my family? Do I also want to be able to enjoy my life? So I think all of these things are coming in stages, and I think quiet quitting is just the trend that's come as a result of the ultimate reset, which is COVID.
Something like 40% of workers are now saying they plan to change jobs this year.
The pandemic also triggered the Great Resignation.
Trying to retain people, but they're really running scared.
Millions of Americans quit their jobs in 2021, some for better opportunities, some for a career break. The pace of quitting continued well into 2022. This chart tracks job openings and labor turnover in the U.S. economy, JOLTS for short.
We do think that quiet quitting is part of the Great Resignation story, so it fits into the general story of having a high level of quits over the past year and a half, and certainly a very tight labor market. And in that type of a labor market, it makes a lot of sense that workers may not be willing to work as hard as they have in the past, because it's very easy to get alternative employment.
So the question is, what is quiet quitting? Quiet quitting is referring to a situation where employees are making a choice to not necessarily go above and beyond what they're being asked to do. It doesn't mean that they're not doing their job, they're just not going above and beyond.
Back in my day, it was called coasting. For me, my last time quiet quitting was 5 years ago. I used to be in tech sales. What I did was work less. I wasn't putting in the 40 hours anymore. I wasn't giving in to the drama anymore. I wasn't giving into work gossip anymore. I wasn't answering emails or texts or Slack messages, DMs after the work day, so weekends were free. They were mine.
Even though it's millennials and Gen Zers who are actively talking about it on social media, quiet quitting has been happening amongst Gen Xers, which I'm part of the Gen Xers, for the better part of 2 to 3 years.
The anti-work movement is not a new trend. In 2021, the lying flat or Tangping movement took off in China. Many viewed it as an anti-work phenomenon. This is a labor protest movement in China against the country's relentless work culture. Some argue that quiet quitting is similar to the lying flat movement. In the US, quiet quitting could also be a backlash to hustle culture, the 24/7 startup grind popularized by figures like Gary Vee and others.
I think it is almost direct resistance and disruption of hustle culture, honestly. And I think it's exciting that more people are doing it.
When it comes to hustle culture and quiet quitting, we're seeing from Gen Zers especially that they're really focused on ensuring that they have that work-life balance and really mission-driven purpose when it comes to work. And we see this across millennials as well.
People are being more honest about the fact that they just don't want to give beyond the 40 hours of work that they normally would give because they're tired.
There has been a tsunami of job resignations.
In 2021, the Great Resignation dominated the economic news cycle.
Or need to remain in their roles. So,
in the second quarter of the same year, U.S. productivity data posted its biggest ever annual drop. And some economists blame workers leaving jobs or not trying hard at their current jobs for the hit to productivity.
Quiet quitting is probably part of the reason for the slowing in labor productivity. It's hard to tell from aggregate data exactly why labor productivity has slowed so much over the course of the pandemic, but it is certainly one of the reasons that you would expect to be weighing on labor productivity right now.
Employee engagement also appears to be declining. A recent poll from Gallup showed employee engagement in the U.S. dropping for the first annual decline in a decade, dipping from 36% engaged employees in 2020 to 34% in 2021.
Disengagement, not being engaged, that's affecting the productivity. Mentally, they're just not there, and they really aren't giving it their all anymore. And they are just trying to stay under the radar, and they are disengaged. That's very much going to impact productivities.
I do think quiet quitting is a part of the Great Resignation. People are so burnt out. We've just gone through and are still going through a pandemic. We are recognizing that life can be so fleeting and so short, and we want to spend it doing something we love. And that doesn't mean work has to be our dream job. I think that myth of the dream job is...
I guess I'll just chime in now. I think a lot of millennials and Gen Z are tired of making money for boomers, dude. They're tired of making money for boomers. All these boomers worked their way to the top when the economy was good. Then everything went to shit. There's all these people trying to work their way up, and they're just not getting to the higher positions. The pay's just not what it used to be. It doesn't stretch as far. And who is in line to take the boomers' positions? Women, dude. An army of women. Like, there's going to be so many women in power in the coming post-boomer world. And I think it's going to be complete fucking chaos, bro. I think everything's topsy-turvy, and there's going to be population. There's going to be a population decline, epidemic of low birth, so many women being bosses of empty offices where nobody wants to work, and I feel like the world is dying. I wanted to say the West is dying, but I feel like the world is dying, man. At least the West
is slowly or rapidly dying.
People that shut down their laptop at 5 want that balance in life, want to go to the soccer game, 9 to 5 only. They don't work for me, I can tell you that.
Labor demand remains red hot in 2022. That's despite the looming risk of a recession. An economic downturn could make quiet quitting a short-lived trend.
Well, if the labor market were to turn, you'd imagine that quiet quitting would become less of a phenomenon. Well, the risk if you're a quiet quitter is that the economy would slow, and you could find yourself in a situation where you're in a job where you haven't been given the most effort that you can, and it puts you at a disadvantage in terms of moving forward at that job. If others have been giving more effort, they're more likely to have greater job security than otherwise. So certainly as the labor market slows, and if we were to go into a recession, could potentially put those workers at a disadvantage.
In addition to talking to thousands of employees per year, I talk to thousands of leaders per year, all the way from your supervisor all the way up to your C-suite CEOs. And I will tell you that they are bothered by this trend because it speaks one of two things. One, we have employees who are doing their job, but they're not going above and beyond. Two, what have we done as an organization to these employees to make them feel like they can't give their best effort?
We're evolving as a culture. We're evolving as a people, and the workplace is evolving, and we need to be okay with it, because it's the same concept for me as people saying just because I didn't have it means you shouldn't have it too. You should have to work hard.
Just want to be careful about just saying that quiet quitting is the Gen Zs and the Gen Ys. I think that it can be happening all over the place. And the more we stay engaged and connected and share our purpose, the less of an issue disengagement will be. And then hopefully the quiet quitting term will start fading to the background, and we'll see both employees being productive and well engaged and employers being very successful.
Cringy. This is what I'm not buying. Outside of minimum wage meme jobs, people are striving and working harder than ever, especially childless women. Yeah, I feel like this is just kind of a nothing burger. You know, people just can't be fucked to be super kind to a company that doesn't really give a shit about them. That's pretty much all it is. Like, I feel like there's more I could say on this, but I'm just not that invested in it because y'all know I haven't really been working very hard for a very long time. I was never in line for any sort of a fucking career, dude. Like, yeah. I pursued music, and it just kind of blew up in my face, and I don't know. I think that was it. I think my life was over after that. Yes, quiet quitting, also known as respecting the time for your own personal life. I miss when the dislike button still shows. Quiet quitting isn't about not giving your best or disengagement. It's about companies respecting your personal time. Okay, let's just keep on going. Engineer says she quiet quit her job. We're probably not going to read this article, dude. This is just the same shit over and over. Here we go. Last one.
Does anybody want to work anymore?
No! At least I don't.
Does anybody want to work anymore? This week, JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon criticized...
JP Morgan, let's go! Wow, literally JP Morgan, dude. You know what? I am glad we're watching this. The JP Morgan CEO, one of the fucking evil elites of the world. Top dog, dude. Tippy fucking top dog. One of the mercantile elite companies that Anthony C. Sutton has pointed out how they were behind funding both sides of the war. He's going to fucking lecture us about quitting. Oh, this is going to be good.
Anybody want to work anymore? This week, JP Morgan CEO Jamin Dimon was criticized for agreeing there was some truth to China's accusation that the United States is, quote, incompetent and lazy. Well, there's been a spate of stories about a shift in the post-COVID workplace.
The fucking CEO of JP Morgan says that people are lazy. Oh, yeah, man, fuck. Why don't we just, like, go to our $1 billion massage and take a trip on our fucking yacht? Take a trip on our yacht to our private island. Dude, just take a trip on your yacht to your private fucking island. And I don't get why you're so lazy, dude. Like, jeez. Does it get any more ridiculous than that?
That suggest he might be right. I keep hearing anecdotally stories of small businesses having trouble hiring people who will show up for a second week of work. In other words, they'll be there day one, but the following week, maybe not. And companies that are trying to compel people to get back to the office are getting a lot of resistance. After Apple employees were asked to be back to a minimum of 3 in-person days, Fortune magazine reports 76% of Apple's employees were unhappy about it, with 56% saying they were, quote, looking to quit. And then there's that recent book, Streets of Gold, by 2 economic historians, one from Stanford, one from Princeton, whose data showed that the children of immigrants coming to America have a better income trajectory than those of people whose parents were born in the United States. In other words, the children of immigrants seem to possess a certain grit that those born here lack.
Oh my gosh, dude. The immigrants are working hard. You see the immigrants are working hard. Yeah, it's because you sold out our fucking future to them, you stupid fucking boomer. Holy fuck, dude. It's because you stabbed your fucking kids in the back and gave this country away to them, you fucking dirty boomer. Holy shit, this is hard to listen to. Wow. They got grit. They got grit that are own kids. Dude, you should be ripped out of your fucking office and... Holy fuck, dude. They got a certain grit. Like, this is dude, just fucking Putin. You know what to do, buddy.
Children of immigrants seem to possess a certain grit that those born here lack. And then there's a rising get paid to don't work movement, getting millions of hits on TikTok and Instagram, calling itself quiet quitting. The idea being, keep the job but don't work very hard at it and focus on getting fulfillment outside of work. A story about quiet quitting has been the #1 most read story all week long at the Wall Street Journal's website. The Journal also recently reported that some are exploiting remote work to hold multiple jobs, getting paid to be mediocre at 2 jobs instead of being good at 1. Axios has labeled all of this the new anti-work movement, a rebellion against rise and grind. A recent Gallup survey found that employee engagement in the United States is falling across all generations, but especially among younger Americans. Among those born after 1989, 54% call themselves not engaged, meaning they'll show up to do the minimum required, but not much else. Joining me now is Paige West, a digital creator who
This is a fucking slave system, bro. The boomers aren't retiring. The boomers are retiring late. The wages are cut. Everybody's getting assaulted with this feminist horse shit and this diversity horse shit. We've been replaced by immigrants, and they're saying, oh, JP Morgan, the fucking evil Illuminati leader of the world, says, well, you don't have the same grit. You don't have the same grit as the immigrants we're replacing you with. Why don't you just take a fucking $1 billion yacht trip to your private island like I do, bucko? Holy fuck, I can't even believe this is a real thing. I can't even believe this is real. Oh, look, it's Sweetie. It's Sweetie Panty Pants who fucking wrote a bunch of dicks all the way to her position of power. Like, bro, this shit ain't gonna change. This shit ain't gonna change, dude.
Graduated from college in 2020, has been offering advice on quiet quitting on YouTube. Paige, thanks so much for being here. So you have an engineering degree. You left the corporate consulting world for the gig economy. How come?
Yeah, so I initially left because I wasn't finding fulfillment from my 9-to-5 job, and I saw that there was so much...
You'll never find fulfillment from your 9-to-5 job, sweetie. You're supposed to get a big, strong fucking man who I fully admit doesn't look anything like me. He's supposed to... He's supposed to pump you, sweetie. He's supposed to pump you. He's supposed to make you go, wee! he's supposed to pump you, and then you're going to be full of his kids, and you're going to pop out his kids, you're going to feed his kids, and you're going to cook, and you're going to rub his feet. You're going to make him happy, sweetie pants. That's the only way you'll be fulfilled. You'll never be fulfilled like this. Soy! All right.
Opportunity outside of the basic 9-to-5 corporate world that I really wanted to get into.
But were you mailing it in while someone was paying you? And if so, do you feel guilty about that?
No, so while I was in my 9-to-5 job, I still was working my 40 hours a week. I was still fulfilling my job duties. I was just taking away that feeling of stress I had after work by feeling like I needed to put in 1,000%, needed to join trainings and do as much as I possibly could to go up the corporate ladder. That just wasn't my end goal.
Do you worry that maybe a future employer, if the entrepreneurial activities that you're engaged in now don't pan out and later you need to be in someone's employ, they're going to take a look back at this chapter and they're going to say, wait a minute, Paige West, she was part of that whole quiet quitting trend. We don't want her.
I wouldn't think so, because at the end of the day, when I was still in my job, I was still doing what I needed to do. I'm certain if they called back my employer that I had when I was still in the corporate world, that they would happily say that I still did a great job, and everything I've done thus far and any references I could gain from my time building up my business and doing freelance opportunities would prove that as well.
Okay, so I get what you're saying. You're saying, hey, I gave them 100%. I was trying to plan my next move, and I wanted to make sure that I was fulfilled outside the workforce. What I'm reading online, and I have watched a lot of your videos, I'm suspicious that you're typical, if that's the case. I think a lot of the others, I'll go old school and say, are loafing on somebody else's dime. Am I wrong?
I think that there's two groups in that case, and I think some they're not trying to loaf. Everyone is trying to do the work that's required of them. I think they're just trying to figure out what that fulfillment looks like outside of work, as well as they're not at the point where they're realizing that their burnout might not even be because they're overworked. It might be because they're misaligned in the job that they're in. And I think a lot of people will realize that. When I was quiet quitting, it was not for a very long time. I only did it for 3 months, although my plan was to do it for 9. But over time, I started realizing that I couldn't stick it out any longer, because it wasn't just that I was overworked and burnt out and all the mental health struggles I was dealing with. It was actually because the job I was in was just not the right one for me. And I think many are going to realize that as well.
Do you think this is a real trend, or is this a tale as old as time? We've just now given it a label, quiet quitting.
I think it's something that's been going on for a long time. I think it's now just something that has a name. So I think many have been doing it for a long time. I've heard that on my channel. Many have commented saying, I've done this for years. I did this, back in my 20s or 30s, or I'm still doing this today.
Okay, final question. I want to know, and I hope you'll vote on today's poll question at my website. You've heard the setup. Jamie Dimon says, maybe there's something to the Chinese when they say that Americans are now soft, that we're, quote, lazy and incompetent. Are we lazy and incompetent?
My vote would be no. I think it's more of a story that we are than anything else.
I'm sorry, I missed the last part. It's more of a storyline?
Yeah, I think it's more of a storyline that we're lazy and incompetent. Everyone I've seen in my life, even those who have partaked in quiet quitting, they're not doing it because they're lazy and incompetent. They're doing it because they see value in other things in their life besides just going up the corporate ladder.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Paige West. We'll see how the vote turns out today. I hope you really will go and vote.
I will. Thank you.
Okay, this guy, I'm kind of curious. It looks like I already watched this, but it wasn't on stream. I'm curious what this guy says from Dirty Jobs. I just wonder if this is going to be as cringe as I think. It's like, the kids just don't want to work anymore. Let's see if this guy from Dirty Jobs, I got a TV show where I work really hard. Like, yeah, dude, you go work everybody's job for one fucking day. It's all about hard work. He rolls up his sleeves, guys. This famous celebrity from a television show where he pretends to work hard jobs. Oh, man, he really rolls up his sleeves, and he's really about to lecture us hard, bro. Nobody understands good hard work anymore. Like, yeah, bro, you're a famous fucking guy. Let's hear this. This might be good. I don't know if we're gonna watch the whole thing, but let's see if this is as good as I think it's gonna be.
You don't seem to want to work, and
do you think
I couldn't wait to work. Work for me. I started working as soon as I was able to, because that's how I could get money.
Because you're a boomer and because it was worth it.
To spend things I wanted.
Do you think they don't want to work because they don't have to, whether it's their parents or government kind of feathering them out?
And that is more from John Mackey just talking about he's just exasperated. He doesn't figure where the work ethic went because we don't know how we got it. But to me, I remember getting my papers thinking 12, 13, one more year, I can officially work. Mike Rowe here talking about his series is back on Monday nights. So, Mike, what is your take on what John Mackey is asking the question, not rhetorically, he wants an answer. What happened?
Well, we have associated drudgery with work, all work.
It's not fulfilling.
We've made work the proximate cause of our collective unhappiness. We believe today that job satisfaction has something to do with the job, and it really doesn't. If it weren't that case, well, guys like Booker T. Washington wouldn't have written what they wrote. If it were the case that job satisfaction is all about the job, then all garbage men would be equally miserable. All Wall Street types would be equally optimistic. It's laughable. All talk show hosts would be equally engaged. Job satisfaction has something to do with the job, but a whole lot more to.
Is that him? Is this the guy from Dirty Jobs? Am I missing something here? I feel like. Do I just not recognize him? This is the Dirty Jobs guy? I feel like that's not him. Is that him? What's going on, dude?
To do with the person. And if you start to look at work like this thing, that's separate and apart from the man or the woman, then you sort of arbitrage the fun out of it. And you just reduce it to action and activity. Why do you think this whole working from home thing is so sensitive right now? It's so fraught, right? Because a lot of people who really favor it, I think, feel as though, okay, finally, now I'm in control. Now I have a measure of control that I didn't have over what I wear or how I sit or how long my break is or so forth and so on.
So what's missing? So it sounds good. I control when I'm working. I control what I do. Mm-hmm. I decide what I can wear.
Yep.
I make my house an office.
Yep. It all tracks right up to the point where you're not an entrepreneur.
Dude, this shit is just so simple, you guys. We don't need to listen to these guys talk the entire time. We're ready for the next segment. The motivation for men to work was to find a wife, get married, and have a family. And that's not happening anymore. Women's standards are too high. Women are getting rapidly promoted. Women just got to show up and ride a bunch of dicks at college, and everybody compliments them all the fucking time, and they get 1 million likes on all of their selfies. And then guys, they get told to be their self and improve their self fucking over and over and over and over and over again. And guys are just not making the cut anymore. So what it used to be is there was this kind of unspoken promise: if you work, you will be able to get married and you will be able to have a family. And now there's a lot of guys who are it's just not happening. And it's like, hey man, can you tell me what the problem is? It's I'm working and I'm saving up money and I'm trying to find a girl and it just doesn't seem like it's happening. Can you give me some advice? And nobody wants to be honest, bro. Okay. The guy saying that, he's 5'7". He's fat. He's got a weird head. He's got a weird lumpy head. It just ain't happening, bro. The black pill shit, people want to laugh it off or people want to call these guys misogynists or whatever. That deal is off the table, man. Women are out here getting their own, and they ain't looking for some fucking average Joe to shack up with anymore. And it's just that was the reason people wanted to work hard, man. There's a lot of guys where it's just work hard so you can go to your home and live there alone and then wake up and do it again the next day, man. Yeah, this next segment's going to be good, guys. Let's read one comment. After 30 plus years busting my backside and going above and beyond at my job, I came to realize this. If you are a hard worker, the boss will keep piling work on you instead of a slacker. You guys, this is exactly what I said earlier. This is exactly what I was saying earlier. Here's somebody saying what I was saying. If you are a hard worker, the boss will keep piling work on you instead of a slacker. The boss knows the job will get done on time with good results and no supervision. If he has to deal with a slacker, then the boss has to put effort in to make sure it's done right and on time. I just got sick of seeing slackers not being asked to do anything or have anything expected of them because management is lazy. They get paid the same as I do, but I have to do twice the work. So I'm not just making it up, dude. But yeah, you know, a job was supposed to be a means to live your life. It was supposed to be a means to live your life, and there's just not really a life to live anymore for a lot of people, unfortunately. Okay. So I'm torn here. Do we want to start with like the cringy MGTOW take where it's like, gentlemen, it is time. Women are seething and crying. Like, this is the MGTOW voice. This is MGTOW's opinion. And then this is like mangina cringe. That's really going to piss us off. Should we get pissed off first and then be redeemed by MGTOW? I think we should get pissed off first. Here we go. Let's start with real men roast Manosphere crybabies. This is going to be hard. This is going to be brutal, guys. Oh, here we go. Let's go.
How did men go from this to this?
This is so cringe. I just want to sound check it to make sure the sound's good here.
Instead, this is what they all do. Rhoda Tomasi, all those guys. Instead of admitting that there's something...
Okay, here we go. This is going to be so cringe, you guys.
How did men go from this to this?
That guy's wearing a dress, dude. The way this guy's eating chips is so soy. This is so soy. They're all wearing dresses. He's wearing a dress. Oh, wow. Jesus is wearing a dress.
Read a book, numbskull.
Read a book, you fucking idiot. Read a book, you fucking idiot. Everybody wore dresses. Everybody wore dresses. Woo! We're off to a good start. You have no right to criticize your child's kindergarten teacher for being a man wearing a dress because all men in history wore dresses. Woo! Let's go.
Oh boy, the Manosphere. You know, these guys are so hilarious because all of them say the same crap over and over and over again, where they idealize this mythical past, where they don't realize that everybody from every era idealizes the mythical past, where everything was so much better and everything would have went my way. You know, things aren't really going my way now, but, you know, back in the day, they would have. Oh, when? You mean like when, you know, when...
Bro, I think Rage Against the Machine is looking for you, dog. You were supposed to be on stage like 20 minutes ago.
And really couldn't have pushed back and couldn't have told you no, didn't really have much choice, and you could have been the same fat, sloppy piece of shit that you are today, except that, you know, improving upon yourself wouldn't have been something you would have had to do like you have to do today. Making yourself better, improving upon your emotional health, your mental health, your spiritual health, your physical health, whatever it is. You know, actually getting out here in the field. You know, these people are so obsessed with women while they hate it, but it's like, you know, actually getting out here and building up your social skills and building up your confidence and your perception of women by being around a lot of women. But no, these guys just spend all their time in the Manosphere talking to a bunch of guys about how all women are sluts and, you know, unless you are, you know, 6'4" plus, you know, Giga Chad, there's no hope for you.
So this is the entire Manosphere, okay? So instead, this is what they all do. Rhoda Tomasi, all those guys. Instead of admitting that there's something wrong with them and that that's why good women don't want to date them, they came up with these elaborate pseudoscientific theories to explain why there are no good women. So,
but are there such thing as bad women? That's the thing. It seems like it's one radical or the other. You accuse MGTOW of a radical assumption that all women are bad, but it sounds like you're making the radical counter-assumption that there's no bad women.
So that they don't have to admit to themselves that there's something wrong with them and that they themselves need to do some growing and that's why good women don't want to date them and that's why they don't meet good
But are there any bad women? That's the question.
Women ever.
And I always laugh exceptionally hard at these videos because it's like these guys are so superficial. You know, they talk about how you have to be this strong, dominant alpha male, this, you know, this stoic, poised man who never gets thrown off his rocker. And then they talk about all these things about, you know, going to the gym and having all this money and all these ways that women work. And it's like, but they're extreme with it. It's extremism. It's not like general advice on how to improve upon your game or improve upon your relationships with women. It's extremism. It puts them into this mindset to where it's
game doesn't work. Everybody's realizing that game doesn't work, bro. Game is being a fucking high status male, which is the proof is in the pudding, you know? It's like, hey, baby, you like the way I said hello? Like the 5'1" janitor from Bombay walks up to a woman, hey, baby, you're looking extra good tonight. Wink. Like, oh my gosh, you're so smooth. Like, it's not what you're saying. It's who the words are coming out of. That's what everybody's figuring out. This ain't gonna help you, brother. Whatever that little bald spot in your hair, yikes, dude. This ain't working, brother. This guy looks rough.
It's like, this really doesn't work in the real world, and that's how I know that.
This really doesn't work in the real world, buddy. This doesn't work in the real world, dude. Y'all want to talk about what doesn't work in the... That don't work. That don't work in the... That don't work. This doesn't work in the real world.
That you ain't got no women. While you sitting here preaching to all these guys, you know, these people who make this content have hundreds of thousands of followers or more. And it's like, none of them getting any pussy, and you ain't getting no pussy neither because of...
I mean, is that working for you, buddy? I don't know if that's working for you, dude.
What you're saying, I can tell that you're not. I mean, it's clear as day. And that's the problem with the manosphere in general. It's like, yeah, sure, you can find some decent advice in there, but for the most part, it's just a bunch of extremism from men who don't know what the hell they're talking about.
He doesn't really say why it's extremism. He just says that it's extremism, and he doesn't explain how.
What trad people don't seem to understand is feminism exists today because men misbehave.
Oh, is this guy going to tell us something about being a man?
Women were at the house cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids, while men were having kids with mistresses, cheating, living this double life. It got to a point where women were like, wait, so I'm just the maid and nanny? You're out here banging all these hoes, doing all this stuff on me, running game, and I can't go work. I can't support myself. I'm so busy at the house that I can't even get out of this relationship. I might as well go get a job and be independent and not need you. That's why we're at where we're at.
The funniest part about these guys in the manosphere is how they're so hyper focused on...
Damn, dude, that guy in the car eating the chips, the dude in the freaking green shirt, this guy, that gay dude, like, this is a scuffed crew, bro. This is a scuffed crew.
The extremist elements in the feminist community. There's incels and then there's femcels. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, but y'all act exactly like the extremist feminists. You're always talking about how, you know, these women are how say that all men should die and they hate men, and it's like, but y'all hate women and y'all think women should be totally subservient to you. You don't understand partnership. You don't understand compromise. I mean, these guys, some of the most popular people in the manosphere, their message is that literally men should be able to do whatever they want and women got to bow down. But they're always angry. They're all like, these guys are just always boiling with anger, and it's like, man, you really missing out on that stress release, ain't you? You just need that stress release down south that you ain't getting, that you ain't paying for. Because all these women that these guys are around, once they do get this internet popularity and start making money, they're just women in the club, and they're paying to have them around because they got the bottles. They always flexing. They always got this and that. They don't have genuine relationships with women. So, of course, you're going to think the things that you do. There's a difference between, like, just generally joking about, like, things that women may do in relationships. Like, you know, for instance, like maybe, you know how sometimes women may get all caught up in something in the moment, and then an hour later, they're like, I'm sorry, I was tripping. Or there's that, which is just general whatever. And then there's, like, You know, I can cheat on you, but you can't cheat on me. You need to. I don't want you to work. I don't want you to do anything. I think you should just stay your ass in the house. There's a clear difference between those two things, and that's what I'm saying. The manosphere is all the way over there in that extremist corner.
This is kind of like bait. I feel like this is kind of like bait, bro. I mean, any individual channel in the manosphere just is what it is. I think Better Bachelor is, like, sometimes I find myself watching too much Better Bachelor and then I unsubscribe from his channel. It can be negative, guys. Like, I'm not Mr. MGTOW out here. I don't know if you're asking me if I'm a MGTOW channel. No, I don't necessarily think that I'm a MGTOW channel, but I do speak on behalf of men a lot of the time. I bring up men's issues and whatnot. I think you just got to take everyone individually, man, and there's a lot of modern trends that the so-called manosphere or MGTOW is trying to point out, and I think they got a lot of good points, and I just feel like none of the guys in this video really said anything, dude.
So that they don't have to admit to themselves that there's something wrong.
You just need to improve yourself. You just need to improve yourself. 1940s and before, all babies wore dresses. LMAO, everybody wore dresses. Hopefully people can understand whatever that garb was that all those old fancy pants guys were wearing. It's not the same as wearing a woman's dress. So, femcells is not a thing. Oh boy, here we go. Here we go. Femcells is not a thing. Right. The extreme feminists don't really exist like incels exist. Here we go. Sure, there are a few fringe women who eschew men to an extreme degree, but you just said they don't exist. You just said they don't exist, and now you're saying, sure, some of them exist, okay? But the difference is those women just straight up want men to leave them alone. Most, especially them. Okay? The MGTOWs, incels, and alpha males want women to submit to them, serve them, service them, and ask nothing in return. They want to tell women how to behave so that they benefit from them. It's comparing the manosphere's desire to control and possess women to the feminist desire to be left the fuck completely alone. That's a false equivalency. Yeah, I'm sure you don't have a great big black dildo in your closet, sweetie. Okay, sweetie. Let's just take a look. Does she have a channel? Let's go. The face of femcells don't exist. Not like other girls. Oh, really? Oh my goodness. This is a treat. Here we go. Not like other girls. I'm a person who is adverse to dogma and immovable doctrine of any variety. I'm a person who is adverse to dogma and immovable doctrine of any variety. Okay, completely anti-all religion, anti-all philosophy. Okay, so you have no philosophy. Anybody who has any sort of an organized, like, this is how we should live because we've learned through the ages or from the word of God that this is the good way to live. You reject all of that. Anybody who has any thought out philosophy on how to live your life, you reject that. Got it. Whether it be religion, politics, or ideology, I can and will question everything when I have questions. I try to stay informed on the topics I comment on, but I do understand that I don't know everything. If anyone has info on a topic they think I might be interested in, post a link in my comment section. And while we're on the subject of comments, ... I will not approve anything I deem unacceptable. Free speech doesn't entitle you to rant and rave unfettered in private spaces. It only and always protects public speech and how the government regulates it. Don't go winging and bitching about free speech on my channel. Do that somewhere public. By the way, I won't entertain batshittery of any ilk. I don't care what your views are. In the words of my dear mother, moderation, dear child, moderation. But you don't have any videos. Looks like maybe you rage quit once upon a time. Looks like maybe you rage quit once upon a time. That was special. Okay. Let's hear what the MGTOW's got to say. Let's go! The biggest wave of MGTOW is happening now. Manfulness. This came out 2 days ago.
This is an observation that I made quite some time ago that I would like to share with you since it relates to a peculiar occurrence that is taking place in the world right now. They have all arrived at the same understanding: men are fighting a battle against women that they cannot win, and as a direct consequence of this, they are gradually withdrawing from the dating scene. What is happening is that men who are in influential and financially secure positions are distancing themselves from the dating pool. I'll explain why in just a moment, but first, let's take a look back at the 1970s and 1980s and examine how the dynamics shifted and new ideas emerged throughout that time period. After the free love movement of the 1960s, more liberties were granted to women, and by the late 1990s and early 2000s, women were finally allowed to express themselves in the way that came most naturally to them. As time progressed, the concept of pickup artistry grew increasingly popular among members of a variety of online communities. It was plain to see that men had figured out how to use their knowledge of women's minds to advance. Many different kinds of males have banded together to discuss how the risk-to-reward ratio is abysmal and how bad it is. Even though the media despises it, it has actually helped people become more genuine. The theory that taking the red pill will make you smarter is one that has been the target of millions of different refutations, yet in the end, it always seems to be proven accurate. Right now, there is a flood of honesty occurring all throughout the world. As a direct result of the increased likelihood of a woman's victory in a divorce case, males who hold enormous financial and political power, such as Johnny Depp, have seen their money and influence decrease as a direct result of the judicial system. This is the case because the likelihood of a woman winning a divorce case has increased. The fact that well-known and influential men are only now beginning to see what a risky game they are participating in is evidence of how far the world has come. The way things stand in the present. Once upon a time, wealthy men were considered untouchable gods. These days, however, wealthy men are losing their jobs because of something a woman said, despite the fact that they had held their posts for decades. Even among the most rich and influential men, the realization that no one is safe has led to the embrace of notions associated with the red pill. Not very long ago, Vince McMahon was the target of an attack that was quite similar to what happened here. Many gurus and internet superstars, like Andrew Tate, appear to find themselves in positions of authority. People like him aren't allowed in the end because they bring attention to the red pill, and the media just can't afford to have that kind of attention. How hard you've worked to accumulate riches or influence in today's world, all it takes is one woman's word to bring you to your knees. When women...
All right, Mr. Get Laid, I'll take the bait. According to your faith, there are 2 billion Muslims worldwide, though, so you are basically appealing to the existence of Muslims. According to your worldview, if somebody exists who disagrees with your position, then you can't have a position. That is pitiful, my friend. You see, yeah, people exist who have a differing worldview to me, but I have done the research. I have done the work. I've spent the time searching. I ultimately went on a perennial quest that lasted upwards of 6 years. Your position is that if alternate positions exist, then you can't take a position. That is sad. That is weak. That is unintellectual. That basically means that you refuse to do any work. You refuse to do any searching. It's just too hard. The people exist who disagree. Therefore, nothing is true. Tee-hee. As an intellectual, as a philosopher, as an aspiring studying theologian, I find that pathetic. I find that very weak-minded. You should probably start hearing out the arguments and start trying to compare and contrast what people believe, other than there's people who have different worldviews, therefore I'll never believe in anything. You're a brainlet, you're a coward, and it sounds like, yeah, you suck. Sucks to suck.
Hold sway over their male counterparts. It doesn't matter how hard you've worked to amass wealth or influence. How long do you think it will be before all guys finally wake up and see the light about women's behavior? Assuming we all take the red pill, which many men have come to as their final philosophy on how people behave, how long do you think it will be before all guys finally wake up and see the light about women's behavior? Men such as Andrew Tate are good examples to consider. After gaining a lot of attention and likes from people all around the world, you come to the conclusion that the time has come for men everywhere to view women for who and what they actually are. Foresight into this future helps to explain why a significant number of high-quality males are choosing to withdraw from the labor force at the present time. They have merely come to terms with the reality that the rules of the game of money have changed and that charges of rape or other scandals might mark the end of their careers and personal lives. They have also come to grips with the knowledge that the rules of the game of riches have changed. The members of the MGTOW movement continue to be guided by their innate impulses. This is the one thing that has not changed despite the various developments that have taken place. Because women are not now at the bargaining end of the dating market, women are in a position to explain the fundamental explanation for the existing imbalance. This is why women are able to explain it. They are the ones at the top expressing their ideals and standards while males strive to fight for them, with the successful ones leading the unsuccessful ones behind. For the past 2 decades, women have been the dominant force in the marketplace. Let's do a thought experiment for a moment and imagine that men suddenly quit sleeping and began acting more like men. What if men always asked women who use their bodies to exert power and influence why they should put up with it if all it gained them was 3 minutes of meaningless pleasure in bed? Women who use their bodies to exert power and influence would have to answer their questions honestly. There is no possibility that you are not completely out of your mind. What lies in store for me if I choose to embrace a more optimistic outlook? Many men, including those in high-value professions like acting and millionaire riches, are making the decision to leave the workforce as a result of assessing the dangers and advantages of having sexual encounters with women. This trend is especially prevalent among younger males. After the departure of these essential players, the remaining women will have no choice but to resign themselves to the position of playing second fiddle to the men who will no longer find them attractive. And if there is one issue on which everyone can
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these MGTOW guys try to over-dramatize stuff. He's talking about lots of men who have money and power. Look, the men with money and power are probably starting to not get married, is what's happening. Ultimately, guys who don't have a lot of money and power, they're struggling to even get sex at all, to date, to have anything. And yeah, sure, they're opting out, but they're basically sent their own way. Okay, I can fully acknowledge there's a lot of men who are more or less sent their own way. Hell, I feel like I was a man sent my own way, but my life is a fucking train wreck. As far as men who have high status and careers and power, they're probably just playing the market. There's no reason for them to get married. You basically give a woman a button with the ability to take half of your shit and destroy your life. So men who have money and status and power, there's not really a reason for them to commit at a high level anymore, because all marriage is an opportunity for a woman to ruin you, basically. So that's my thoughts on it.
Reach a consensus. It is that women will never possess positions of true power, such as wealth or influence. This is something that everyone can agree upon. The majority of men billionaires and millionaires made their wealth through their own efforts, whereas the majority of female millionaires either inherited
the majority of male billionaires made their wealth from their own efforts. Whoa, dude. This guy's just like saying a bunch of dumb shit. See, girls, we also expose how cringe MGTOW is too.
This is something that everyone can agree upon. The majority of men billionaires and millionaires made their wealth through their own
I don't agree, so I just refuted what you said. Like, what a fucking stupid thing to say. This is something that everybody can agree upon. No, it's not. You're fucking stupid.
Agree upon. The majority of men billionaires and millionaires made their wealth through their own efforts, whereas the majority of female millionaires either inherited their wealth or legally gained it through divorce.
That's really fucking stupid, dude. That's unbelievably stupid. This guy's a fucking idiot. This guy's an idiot.
On the other hand, the majority of male multimillionaires and billionaires can credit their success to long hours of labor and dogged determination.
They can credit their success to mommy and daddy fucking giving them their money, dude. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck is this guy talking about, bro? Wow, this just got really fucking stupid. Really fucking fast. Holy shit.
Termination. I won't waste my time trying to explain the answer to you because I'm sure you already understand it.
So basically you don't have an argument. No, I don't agree with anything you're saying. I think you're a fucking idiot. Holy shit, this is knuckle dragging tier.
The encouraging news is that market alphas are also picking up on these tendencies as they become increasingly obvious from day to day in the form of numbers like these. This is fantastic news. They are now of the opinion that they are on an equal footing with the rest of us guys. Women's dating habits are becoming increasingly selective on a daily basis. The dates that female market alphas set up for their Leviathan herds are typically disastrous for the men that the women choose to be their mates, and the female market alphas are the ones who set the tone for the dates. Because there isn't a whole lot to do in this area.
Okay, this guy's a fucking idiot. Let's watch Better Bachelor. I think this guy's the best MGTOW. So if anything, if I can make any point here, every MGTOW guy is different and they all just say whatever they say. This guy tends to point out like women being dumb. The guy actually got 2 happy endings. Yeah, I mean, this is just like news, I guess, about women being dumb. I don't know, dude. Fuck all this shit. All right, let's just read this. Yeah, so in conclusion, anti-MGTOW people are stupid. A lot of MGTOW people are stupid. A lot of people are just stupid, dude. This misogynist group was tagged in Poilievre's videos. Who is MGTOW? The National Observer. Conservative Party of Canada leader Pierre Poilievre came under fire this week after a Global News report found at least 50 recent videos on his YouTube channel were promoted using the tag MGTOW, an acronym for the male supremacist movement, Men Going Their Own Way. The tags have since been removed, and his office claimed they were unaware of their existence. Obviously, Mr. Poilievre condemns misogyny and all forms of online hate. Poilievre hasn't apologized for the tags nor offered explanations as to how they came to exist on his videos. The conservative leader has signaled support for other fringe conspiracy and far-right ideology. So basically, this guy put the hashtag MGTOW in his video, and people are spurging about it. But the most recent revelations have sparked nationwide conversations about the disturbing mainstreaming of male supremacist ideologies and movements like MGTOW. Men Going Their Own Way is a male supremacist movement similar to the more commonly known incel. There's no incel movement. People tried to say that MGTOW isn't a movement, and I said that MGTOW is a movement. Incel is not a fucking movement. Oh, man. The latter entered the Canadian public discourse in 2018 when a man who espoused the incel ideology murdered 10 people. Yeah, one guy. There's millions and millions and millions of incels, and there's been 3 or 4 incel killers. It's a non-thing. It's just not a thing, dude. Since then, researchers and advocates have worked to sound the alarm about misogynist radicalism and violence, especially in online forums. While MGTOW shares some common ground with the incel movement, which is rooted in misogyny and dehumanization of women, the two are distinct ideologies with unique dangers. Alex DeBranco, executive director and co-founder of the Institute for Research on Male Supremacism, which studies misogynist and trans-misogynist. Oh, wow, trans-misogynist. That's a new one. Movements and violence, told Canada's National Observer there are 5 main contemporary male supremacist movements: men's rights activists, misogynist incels, the red pill, men going their own way, and pickup artists. Wow. 5 main contemporary male supremacist movements: men's rights activists, misogynist incels, the red pill. I mean, the red pill and men's rights activists are the same thing. Men going their own way, that's all the same thing. Red pill, men going their own way, right? Men's rights activists, all the same thing. and pickup artists, and then pickup artists don't have anything to do with any of that. MGTOW are against pickup artists. This is just insanity. It's just complete insanity. They all share roots in misogyny, anti-feminism, and objectification of women, but DeBranco says they manifest in different ways. Okay, cool, guys. Let's wrap it up. That's enough of that. That MGTOW video fucking sucked, bro. Everybody can agree that all male billionaires made their money from hard work. Like, what? What the fuck was that, bro? Let's just fucking wrap it up, dude. Bishop Robert Barron on grace and karma. Here we go.
Just a couple weeks ago, I had the great privilege of meeting Dr. Stephen Davis, who is a retired professor of the philosophy of religion at Claremont. And in advance of the meeting, I read his book on Christian philosophical theology, which was very interesting. And one of the chapters in that book is on a basic division between the religions of the world, what he calls religions of karma and religions of grace. So religions of karma are very prominent, of course, in the East. And a karmic religion has a lot to recommend it, and that's why these religions have been so strong for so long. What's the law of karma but a kind of cosmic law whereby good acts are rewarded and wicked acts are punished. Now, maybe not immediately. Remember John Lennon's song, "Instant Karma is going to get you," is sort of playing on that, because karma might not be instant, it's usually delayed. And it might not even be in this life, it might be in the next life. But karma will assert itself. Good deeds are rewarded, evil deeds are punished. As I say, it satisfies our sense of justice. It seems right and fair. Well, to that, we contrast religions of grace. And now these can be found in the Abrahamic religions, I think largely of the West, very much including Christianity. Biblical religions are religions of grace. Now, what's going on here? Well, not so much everybody gets exactly what he deserves, but rather, as the Bible says, everyone sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. I mean, as Paul says, there's nobody righteous. I mean, not one of us. Nevertheless, God gifts us with his forgiveness, with his love, with the gift of eternal life. That we don't get what we deserve, right? As in a religion of karma, we get something that we don't deserve. Think now of maybe the most famous line of Christian poetry ever, which we sing all the time in Christian churches. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me, right? Well, in a purely karmic religion, wretches don't deserve to be saved. A wretch deserves a wretched fate, right? But yet, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved, that gave a gift to a wretch like me. So there's a religion of grace. And of course, you see it on display throughout the Bible. Think of Jesus' great story of the workers hired at different times of the day. One works 8 hours, one works 5, one works 2, one works for a half hour, and yet they're all paid the same. Yet there's a gracious gift given to those who worked only a short time. It's not a strict karma situation. Everyone gets what he deserves. Or think of maybe the most famous parable of Jesus, the prodigal son. Here's this kid that insults his father, takes his money, squanders it on dissolute living, comes crawling home. What does that kid deserve in a karmic point of view? He deserves, to be punished, rejected. And yet the father lavishes him with his grace, right? And in fact, the older brother in that story is kind of a religion of karma type person. Here's this son of yours has run off with your money and squandered it. I've been back home dutifully following your will. What do I get in return? And that's why a lot of people sympathize with the older brother, right? But a religion of grace says God doesn't operate that way. Okay. Now, before we get all kind of self-righteous about, well, don't we have a better religion of grace? Davis reminds us, keep in mind, there's a tension, there's a difficulty at the heart of all religions of grace. Namely, not everyone seems to get grace, right? That's the trick, is, okay, it's a free gift, and it doesn't appear as though everyone gets it. Rather, we are dealing with a choosing God or an electing God. And what reason can you find? Well, you can't. So God chooses Abel, not Cain, right? How come? We don't really know. We're not told. God chooses Jacob, not Esau. God chooses Moses, not the Pharaoh. He chooses David, not Saul. In fact, Israel is known as a chosen people. How come? Oh, because they're the best and the most righteous. No, on the contrary. They're the least of people. And yet, they were chosen. You say, okay, I get that's gracious, but it also doesn't seem real fair, does it? That some get it and some don't. Okay, so how do you resolve this dilemma? Well, can I...
Do we have a Catholic bishop here referring to election? That would be interesting. Rick Perry, I believe, says that like the proper traditional Catholic faith, Augustinian faith, acknowledges election, I think.
Suggest a couple of texts just to look at. The first one is from the 56th chapter of the prophet Isaiah. Now, prophet Isaiah. There's nobody in the whole biblical tradition who is stronger on the privileges and prerogatives of Israel than Isaiah. He knows that Israel is a chosen people, right? More to it, he knows that Mount Zion, where the temple is, where God has chosen to live, is of supreme value. But now listen to him. Listen to Isaiah. Foreigners who have attached themselves to the Lord to serve him and to love his name and to be his servants, these I will bring to my holy mountain. I will make them joyful in my house of prayer, for my house will be called a house of prayer for all peoples. See, and that's a key move here. Was Israel chosen? Yeah. Was Zion chosen, the temple, where God has decided to live in a privileged way? Yes. But is Israel meant to revel in its own prerogatives? No. Is the temple meant to be this absolutely exclusive place where only a handful of special people get in? No. Rather, and here's the hinge, Israel was graced so as to become a conduit of grace to all the world. That through Israel, all the nations will come to Zion. It'll be a house of prayer not for Israel alone, but for all the world. Another great text is now from the New Testament. When Jesus meets the Syro-Phoenician woman, right, that famous scene. So an outsider, a non-Israelite, the Syro-Phoenician woman. Classically, a lot of tension between those peoples and Israel. She comes up to the Lord, seeking a favor. Could you do something for my daughter? And the Lord just, puts her off. No, I've come for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. When she presses him, what does he say? It's not right that the food for the children should be given to the dogs. I mean, it seems to be, if you want, the worst of a religion of grace. Like, no, look, these people are chosen. They're the special ones. They get it. You don't, right? And there's the tension. It seems as though that's what's going on. But then she delivers her famous one-liner, one of the best in the whole New Testament, right? Oh, but Master, even the dogs receive the scraps that fall from the Master's table. He's so impressed by her faith, he says, that he gives her what she wants. Now, what's the point here? The point is, we oughtn't to read the prerogatives of Israel as though they are unique to Israel, but rather so that all the world, symbolized by the Syro-Phoenician woman, might by hook or by crook benefit from the grace given to Israel. Yes, we have an electing God, a God of grace, but God elects for the sake of the world, if that makes sense. If we get stuck at the first level, then we have this anomaly, this problem of grace. So the ultimate lesson of this, I'll speak bluntly and clearly now. Thank God I have a religion of grace, I would say. I don't know about anyone else listening, but I don't want to stand up in the harsh wind of what I deserve. Do you know what I'm saying? If it's purely karma out there and I get what I deserve, God help me. God help me. I mean, I'm infinitely grateful for a religion of grace, that I don't get what I deserve, but I've been given as a grace. My faith, baptism, the Mass, the Eucharist, the sacraments, the revelation of Christ. I've been given all that. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Yes, right. But now, what do I do with grace? I give it away. I become a conduit now of grace to others. I've been elected, yes, thank God. I've been elected for the world. I think that's the logic at the heart of a religion of grace.
So, some of my thoughts on this. I see it a lot in other people when people carry themselves like I've done nothing wrong. When I accuse people of being narcissists, psychopaths, they carry themselves in this way like I have never done anything wrong. They are self-righteous. Like say when somebody doesn't accept your apology a year after you didn't even really hardly do anything to them. Kind of this idea like, you know, they were in the right and you were in the wrong. You need to come from a place where you understand that you have done wrong. That's very important as a Christian. You failed, buddy. Trust me, you failed. And it shouldn't even seem like, I feel like I did nothing wrong. No, you'll know what you did wrong because it's funny how it works out. Like you fucking blew it somehow. Somehow you blew it. Maybe you blew it a long time ago and you started coming around and now you've been pretty consistently not blowing it. But chances are you blew it, and on some level you're always blowing it. And look, man, he was really uncomfortable in the woods. Are we ever going to get it? Are we ever going to get over it, guys? Someday. But just keep that in mind, okay? You're going to want to persecute people, and you can see that I persecute people pretty regularly. I talk about how a lot of people did me wrong, and I have to give them an opportunity to start over, you know? I will always accept an apology. Now, I said in the past that I don't think I've ever gotten one. I've gotten some apologies in my life, but as far as like this shit from the past, I've very publicly gotten in problems with people here. I've yet to have anyone come forward and say, look, bro, you had a bad reputation. You said some shit. Other people gossiped. I'm here to just say it's water under the bridge, bro. Nobody's ever come at me like that. I, however, am coming to people being like, look, I know I said some shit. I have all kinds of opinions. I never really got my word, but it's been years, and, you know, I'm ready to just take it from here on out. A clean slate. At this point, if I do wrong again, then I have no excuse. If you do wrong again, then it's a whole new beef. You got to be willing to forgive people, guys. The Lord will not forgive your sins if you do not forgive the sins of others. It's in the Bible. It's in the good book. Grace is a gift from God. So, you know, when 5 people are in a room and they're all Christians and they're all strong believers, could we count up their sins, and would somebody be more wicked than the other? Absolutely. But the bottom line is that forgiveness is a gift from God. Woods are pretty scary, not going to lie. That's all we got for the podcast today, guys. I feel like the MGTOW topic was kind of a dudski. It was kind of a dudski. Oh, wow, MGTOW news. Well, the MGTOW news is that MGTOW is cringe, and people who are against MGTOW are cringe, and Canada is cringe, and it's like, no, yeah, I understand why men are going their way. I mean, yeah, I'm basically going my own way. I think I'm just fucking broke, dude. I think my life was just a failure to launch. I think if I would have been career-minded and maybe had, like, a good career, maybe it would have worked out for me. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I just feel like the topic was a dud. But we did it. We made some content to get today. Seeing as how I'm definitely not going to stream tomorrow, I think we're going to do a chill stream tonight for at least a little bit. So I'm wrapping this up, guys. That's the end of the podcast. God bless you, and I will see you probably within like half an hour or so for the chill stream tonight. God bless you.